Thank you so much for being here today. We'd like to get started in just a moment, so if you're still standing, we invite you to take a seat. We've got a lot of spaces up here up front, and if you're working the resource tables and you'd like to come up and take a seat, please do. We look forward to sharing a lot of great information with you today. Thank you.
People in the back 2 more minutes to sit down. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Not weird, really? This is my nightmare. Can people in the back hear me? Just let me know, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I stayed up night worrying about. Are they going to hear me? Okay, and if I start fading, just don't say it. So good morning. I'm Helen Edelstein. I'm the president of the board of directors of StateWide Senior Action Council. It is my great honor to welcome you to Ulster County's first Community Connections, an event hosted by the members of the Ulster County chapter of StateWide. And what an amazing turnout we have. Thank you so much. As a consumer-directed grassroots organization, it is the mission of StateWide to work as the trusted voice for all seniors through advocacy, education, and services. In 2023, as part of the statewide strategic planning process, the Board of Directors surveyed our stakeholders and asked them to tell us what they thought are the most critical issues facing seniors today. Among their top concerns were social isolation and mental health. These findings closely echoed the findings of the U.S. Surgeon General, who in 2023 reported that older adults in our country are in the throes of an epidemic of isolation that imperils their physical, cognitive, and emotional health. He reported that even before COVID drove us into isolation, America was suffering from epidemic levels of loneliness. Dr. Murthy called social isolation an underappreciated public health crisis associated with an increased risk of depression, anxiety, heart disease, stroke, and dementia, all profound health consequences. Understanding the importance of this issue to the seniors in our community, and in accordance with our mission, members of the Ulster County chapter of StateWide met to consider ways to explore the critical intersection of social isolation and aging, and to find ways to address issues such as loneliness and the lack of social connectivity that affects so many adults. After many months of discussion, Community Connections, a senior forum, was born. In planning this forum, our goal was to highlight core elements of aging well: purpose, activities, and connection, and how they may act as an antidote to the isolation epidemic facing seniors in our community. We recognized that the best way to accomplish our goal was to go to the experts, seniors in our community who are living the experience of aging well. As seniors, we all have stories to tell, stories that are interesting, informative, and inspiring. Because telling stories has measurable benefits for narrators and listeners alike, we asked our guest panelists to tell you their stories, to share their personal experiences of living active, contributing, and well-connected lives. We know that living with a sense of purpose, acting in accordance with one's most cherished values, has numerous benefits for physical, cognitive, mental health, and social well-being. As our panelists will attest, purpose may be found in continuing the paid work you love to do, or to use retirement as an opportunity to try out a second career. It may be finding meaning in volunteer work, donating your time to an organization, advocating for issues you care about, taking up a social justice cause that is meaningful to you, or reaching out in some way to help others. It may be engaging in physical activities that serve to increase our energy and our strength, or creative activities that serve to express your identity, a way to affirm who you are. Or a sense of purpose may be found by pursuing personal or spiritual growth, or by strengthening your connections with yourself, your family, friends, and community. So guys, we all know that aging has its challenges, but also its rewards. As evidenced by the stories you will hear today, aging can be a time to try new things, experience new adventures, meet new people, and maybe even reinvent ourselves. As you listen to the experience of our panelists, you will notice a commonality and overlapping as each of them has embraced core elements of aging well: activities, connection, and purpose. This past July, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who was New York State's honorary ambassador to loneliness, passed away at the age of 96. Prior to her passing, Dr. Ruth co-authored her final book, The Joy of Connections: 100 Ways to Beat Loneliness and Live a Happier and More Meaningful Life. According to Alison Gilbert, the book's co-author, Dr. Ruth would say that loneliness is curable, and you have the power. You have the agency to do what it takes to build meaningful, worthwhile, fulfilling relationships. Dr. Ruth's message is simple. You play the most significant role in your ability to foster meaningful connections. So in conclusion, I would like to thank each of you for coming today and taking part in our community connection. I hope you enjoy the stories you'll hear, and in the spirit of our forum, take this opportunity to create new connections. On a personal note, I want to thank our moderators, panelists, chapter members, and sponsors for their contributions to today's event. Without each of you, this event could not happen. And to paraphrase, it takes a village to connect a community. Thank you. And now it is my great privilege to introduce the host of today's event, the woman who's been the heart and soul of this project, the woman with whom I have shared purpose, activity, and connection, the president of the Ulster County chapter of StateWide, and my dear friend, Martha Studin.
Yes, I am Martha Studin, and I'm so glad you're all here. We're the Ulster County chapter of StateWide. StateWide has been in existence in New York State only for 52 years. We just started 8 years ago, and I think most of the founding members are right here today, so that's really great. Now on your table, you will see lots of bling, statewide bling. And you also have this. Believe it or not, it's a statewide bag. Now some of them are in plastic. Some of them, no, they're open. This is because last night when we were setting up and it started to get darker and none of us want to drive in the dark, maybe you can relate to that. Anyway, that's why some of them have been opened up and others are not. So we ask you then to open up, fill it up with bling. Now I know It's not the blingiest bling, but we are a not-for-profit, so you have to bear that in mind. Anyway, so this bling is a shameless attempt to ask you to consider joining StateWide. Just consider it. Because for $20 a month, a year, beg your pardon. Well, the price just went. Thank God Ellen is here. So for $20 a year, you'll get either emails, if you're a computer person, or actual mail, if you remember that coming through the post office. You get mail or emails about a lot of different issues that pertain to seniors. Definitely the legislation. We're into making sure that New York State legislation is cognizant of us and our needs. That's what the petition is about. And there was a petition at the statewide table, and there'll be 2 other people circulating. Please sign if you're a signer. I know, I'm from Ulster County too. We don't always sign everything that comes our way. But if you're a signer, sign that petition to ask the governor, please to not cut money for Office for the Aging and statewide and other organizations. Indeed, hold it steady and, if possible, increase our funding. So that's the ask. That's the ask. You'll also get information on our our ask as seniors. Please don't mess with our Medicare. Please don't mess with our Social Security. And then, and then there are lots of things on the website. If you do nothing else, just look at the website, because it'll show you all sorts of opportunities, information. One little example, when I had my hip operation, I didn't know really it hadn't been a long time since I'd been in the hospital, so I got on one of the websites that they have. It was all about what to expect to go into the hospital for surgery. It was great help. I mean, it calmed me down, and it gave me a whole lot of information and questions I should ask the doctor before I went in. So things like that are really invaluable to us. So anyway, please visit the statewide table and pick up our handouts. And also, if you want more bling for friends or relatives, we have plenty of it. Florence is in charge now, and it's all under the table. Just ask. So you'll have plenty of it. And also take a chance on winning Betty Moskowitz's book. I think this is your 7th or 8th book. 6th book. Take a chance on that. We're so happy to have all these panelists. They're wonderful folks, and you'll hear their stories, their personal stories, soon. Now, we've been hearing a lot lately about Americans, young and old, feeling depressed, estranged, and isolated. I don't really feel that here in Ulster County, but I guess I read about it in the papers, I see about it on TV, so it must be a thing. And the fact that we are all here means that we do understand the reason for connecting with people and getting out of the house. And so what we're going to hear are stories of how the 3 things that the Surgeon General mentioned helped these folks. So, I'd like to introduce Missy McGee, who's our first moderator, and she'll come up and when you like.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Missy McGee, and just a little tiny bit about myself. First, I wanted to say I'm very pleased to be here with all of you, and just so grateful to see all of you here as well. I am a mental health and wellness advocate, and I work with the YWCA as the Director of Outreach at the Ulster County Family Court Child Care Center in Kingston. Yes. Now, I'm grateful to the ladies of the Statewide Senior Action Council for inviting me to take part in this very important event. It's been a pleasure working with all of you ladies, and I'm looking forward to our continued work together. Thank you so much for embracing me and for inviting me into your organization. Now, I have been asked to moderate the panel on the panel discussion on purpose, right? And I can tell all of you, remarkably, that since I was a child, I always felt that I was here for a reason, right? A purpose, all right? And since identifying my purpose in 2018, I realized that not only did my purpose give me life, but in honesty, it saved my life. My purpose saved my life. Now, I'm going to be focusing our discussion today around finding purpose later in life. And there are 4 categories in which purpose emerges, right? Our drive to live life, in our roles and responsibilities, in our routines, in our activities, and in our independence, and also in faith and spirituality. One of the things that I believe is very important to convey to all of you here today is that until we reach a certain age, or once we have passed a certain age, in this society, there's a tendency to count us out. But it is my fervent hope that in our later years, our purpose will be something that will enable us to create our own narratives, right? So that we can determine how we want to live our lives in later years, right? And I believe that this is a great benefit to our mental health and wellness once we establish that for ourselves. Now, before we dive into our discussion, please allow me to introduce my esteemed panelist for this morning. First up, I have known this woman, this beautiful woman that sits on my panel, for 9 months, 52 years, and counting. And that, beautiful people, is because she is my mother. Now, Reverend Zool, or as her parishioners affectionately call her, Pastor Deb, is an ordained minister who currently serves as the pastor of Katzbahn Reformed Church in Saugerties, New York. And she's held this position since November of 2020. God called her into his service at the age of 15, but she didn't answer that call until the age of 33. Curious. Now, she was raised in the AME Zion Church and was licensed to preach in 1986, at which time she gave her very first sermon. She is a Bronx native who was raised in Queens. Okay, all right. Now, upon completing elementary school, she was bused to a junior high school in Great Neck, New York, located in Long Island. And she was among the first African Americans to integrate her junior high school, Louis Pasteur 67. Now, fortunately, she did not experience any incidents of racial tension. And in 1968, she graduated from John Adams High School. Now, in the early 1970s, she became a minister's wife. And together, she and her husband, my father, the late Ralph Waldo Emerson McGee Sr., they founded a church together called St. Mark AME Zion Church, which is located still to this day in Poughkeepsie, New York. As First Lady, she was responsible for organizing the Women's Missionary Committee, the Senior Female Usher Board, and directing a teenage choir that was called the Soulful Singers. And let me tell y'all, they could sing. Okay? Now, it was also during this time that she became a writer for a gospel show that was on radio. The radio station at the time was WEOK, also in Poughkeepsie. The show was the St. Mark AME Zion Spiritual Hour, and it aired every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. There was music, there was a sermon, and there were prayers. At the end of her second marriage in the late 1980s, she and her 3 children moved to Rondout Gardens, which is an apartment complex in Kingston, New York, and she became the president of the residential council, serving both the families and senior sections of that development. She later was asked to join the management team and was recognized by HUD as one of the first residents to go from being a resident and becoming involved in the management staff. She received honors at a ceremony that was held in New York City, which was pretty exciting. Now, during her time at Rondout Gardens, she employed some of the residents, and they worked the 12 programs that she was responsible for. And they were all paid positions, which at that time was a very big deal. Now, she was also a former board member of the YWCA Ulster County and the Women's Health Group at Kingston Hospital. And she also served as a landlord with an organization called SCORE that assisted low-income families in obtaining affordable housing. Now, in addition to her 3 adult children, which include my 2 younger brothers, she has 7 beautiful grandchildren, and she has made her home here in the Mid-Hudson Valley for over 50 years. Sadly, she was widowed in 2011, but she continues to remain active in church auxiliaries, revitalizing a group of women known as the Social Solos. If you follow her Facebook page, you'll be able to see that each month they go to different restaurants where they enjoy fun, food, and fellowship. All are welcome, so I would talk to her about it if I were you. Now, she also works with several prayer chain groups, and for the past 25 years, she has portrayed an African-American icon who was born right here in Ulster County, Miss Sojourner Truth. She was an abolitionist and a women's rights activist, as well as a trailblazer for being the first African-American to successfully litigate 3 court cases. And when you think about that time in our history, she wasn't even allowed in the courtroom. All right? Now, she's in great demand, and she'll perform wherever she's invited. And each year at Black History Kingston, the annual Sojourner Truth Life Walk is held, and it retraces some of the steps that Sojourner Truth took from Port Ewing all the way to the Ulster County Courthouse on Wall Street. At the end of the walk, you'll see her at the Old Dutch Church, where she reenacts the famous speech that Sojourner Truth gave when she made an appearance at a women's conference that was held in Akron, Ohio in 1851, Ain't I a Woman? Not only is she my mother, but she is my bestie, and she is my person. She, for the past 7 years, has walked alongside me as I recovered from a major life disruption that caused a mental health crisis. Because of her love and support, recovery has been possible for me. And it's one of the reasons why I'm able to stand here before you today. She says that being a soldier in God's army, she's always on call to help those in need, and she hopes to do so until her last day. Now, we also have the pleasure of having on our panel Toli Velakos, who is the father of our very own CEO extraordinaire of the YWCA Ulster County, Athena Velakos, who is here in the audience with us today. Can we give her a round of applause, please? Now, I thought it was important for you all to hear these stories because I think that we should give our flowers while we can, right? So in listening, please pay attention to Toli's story in particular. So he was born to Greek immigrants in East Africa. He attended a Greek elementary school there, and after 5 years of schooling in Greece and in England, he came to America to complete his high school education on a full scholarship at an elite boarding school in Northwest Connecticut. He earned a full scholarship to Yale University, and he graduated in 1969, having majored in theater and film. Early in his career, he worked as a production assistant at Time Life Films, and he quickly rose through the ranks to become an executive producer for the largest independent producer of educational films in New York City. He was a part of a small group of independent filmmakers who did for educational films what Sesame Street did for television, right? They kind of changed the game. They transformed, like professors and teachers and experts who just simply talked to the camera, and instead they created a vehicle by which a teacher could break down the walls of the classroom and bring the outside world in, all right? I think that's incredible, actually. As an executive producer and director of programming at the federally funded satellite technology demonstration, he spearheaded the development of 6-foot antenna dishes to deliver a television signal. And this is all before cable, right? And this was in remote, rural, isolated areas in the Rocky Mountains. He transitioned to the real estate industry, and he founded and managed the largest, most productive Century 21 franchise in the 8-state Rocky Mountain region, rising to national prominence as an elected representative to the National Brokers Communication Congress and the National Advertising Fund. In the process, he introduced 2 major innovations which are now common practice in real estate to this very day. Having established himself with a reputation as a project manager, A problem solver, a team builder, an innovator, he was hired to rebuild a steel mini mill, which followed an industrial accident that unfortunately killed 3 people, injured 15, causing $4 million in damage. And as the on-site CEO, this man right here negotiated a new revolutionary union contract which eliminated the idea that seniority was the only way for forward progression. And instead, it was based on every worker's punctuality, attendance record, their attitude, and their performance. Imagine that. They didn't have to wait all their lives for their desired roles because of him, right? As a result, the mill became a model of safety while increasing production by 30% and sales by 55%. And in retirement, Tully remains active, reinventing himself once again as a lucrative small businessman. He's very modest. Can we give a round of applause for our panel?
Let's say halfway through the pastor's biography, I leaned over to her and said, halfway through the pastor's biography, I leaned over to her and said, I'm going home now.
I told him, sit where you are.
Now, we sometimes hear people use the word passion. And I have to tell you that there is a difference, all right? Just in case you were wondering. Passion is about what we do, but purpose is about why we do it, right? Purpose is more focused on others. It is connected to our core values. Essentially, it's our North Star, all right? So with that in mind, let the questions begin. Pastor Deb, I'm going to begin with you. And she gave me permission to call her that today, ladies and gentlemen, just for the sake of this conversation. Okay? I'm going to begin with you. With that in mind, do you believe that we all have a purpose? And if so, how has that impacted your life and the lives of others around you?
First of all, I want to say thank you to... And I have, they tell me I have a bedroom voice. And my parishioners are always saying, what? But I want to thank the committee for this great event today. And I am blessed to be here with my daughter, who was like, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? So I'm here, not under duress, but, you know, for those who are parents, you know what I'm talking about. But Missy, and I have to get used to that because, you know, she's Candice to me. But Missy, yes, I do believe we all have been born with a purpose. We are not always aware of what that purpose is. I was on vacation visiting my aunt and uncle in Pontiac, Michigan. And I went to their church for a service. And one Sunday, the pastor was praying, and I was sitting under a skylight. You know, as Sophia said, picture this. I was sitting under a skylight, and all of a sudden it seemed like everything around the church went dark, except for that skylight, with the beams of light coming down and surrounding me. And the feeling was so powerful until I began to cry. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. I mean, after all, I was 15 years old. The experience was never talked about then, I didn't tell anyone what had happened, even when I got back to New York with my parents. But it seems like God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called.
Amen.
Understand that, okay? So, being a teenager, you're always asked, what are you going to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a nurse. Why? Because I love people, number one. I love helping people, number two. And I thought that was my purpose. Little did I know that later down the road, the Lord would tap me on the shoulder and say, remember me? And that is what it is. Purpose is a big thing. And if you don't think you have it, you do. And the Lord uses it in different ways for different people. So yes, I believe.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Now, my next question is for Toli. All right? And, I just want to say this. This is kind of a personal observation that I've made. It seems like in today's day and age, the word immigration has a negative connotation, right? We have forgotten that in times past, America was seen as a beacon of light, of hope. There were even people that believed that the streets here were paved with gold. This was the place where you were supposed to be able to come to make your dreams come true. And if you worked hard enough, you would be able to provide a better life for your families here. So I want to ask you, Toli, did this so-called American dream create or define for you your purpose?
Again, thank you all for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be here. And thank you, Missy, for phrasing it the way you did, because in the political context of our times, it's a great topic for discussion and one that we need to talk about. I've actually lived the American dream. And by doing so, both created and defined my life's purpose. I'll share with you how and why, but allow me first to clarify the context from my point of view. For me, immigration doesn't carry any negative connotation at all. Quite the contrary. I think the negative connotation is a manufactured political ploy pandering to the anger and fears of well-meaning people who bear some grievance or another, whether legitimate or not. In the process, we've sort of tuned the dial away from the station, off tune, into the static area. A lot of random, nonsensical noise. And in that environment, we forget that this country was built on the backs of people who came here voluntarily to avoid religious persecution or involuntarily on slave ships.
Amen.
We forget that we've accomplished so much in only 250 years, not despite the immigrants, but because of immigrants.
Yes.
Albert Einstein was an immigrant. Werner von Braun, father of rocketry, who took us to the moon, was an immigrant. Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, is an immigrant. Martin Luther King and Frederick Douglass and John Lewis are descendants of immigrants. Madeleine Albright and Mother Jones were immigrants. Hedy Lamarr was an immigrant. Now, she was a great beauty in her time, but many people don't know that she was also an inventor. She developed a system to protect our submarines, and is credited with having founded Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Nikola Tesla was an immigrant. Andrew Carnegie was an immigrant. Bob Hope was an immigrant. These people and countless others who flooded in here from all over the world in the 20th and 21st century to avoid famine or political persecution did not poison the blood of America. They enriched it and reinvigorated it. To make America the great country that it already is. Warts and all, it's the greatest country in the world, bar none. So I'd like to think that I too contributed a few drops of good blood today to America. I'm proud to be an immigrant, and prouder still to be a naturalized American citizen. But what I did for America is far less important than what America did. Once more, let me put that in the proper context. As Missy told you, I was born and raised in East Africa. I was sent to a Greek elementary school. When I graduated at age 11 from 6th grade, my parents gave me a choice. I could either go to a British school in East Africa or I could go to a Greek school in Greece. I opted to go to Greece. I had the good fortune of attending a boarding school there, which was a Greek school but funded with Greek American money. So I got immersed in American culture and literature and fell in love with the language. Now I used to go back home to Africa every summer, but after 3 years I wrote to my parents and said, instead of coming home for the summer, can I go to England for the summer and immerse myself in the language? My parents, being who they are, sent me an airline ticket and some cash. I, being who I was, promptly cashed in the airline ticket, got a train ticket instead, had all this cash left over, and took a glorious train trip for Europe. So I found myself in England. I found a place to live. I got a job at the international airport, bussing tables and washing dishes. But while I was there, I got a letter from my father, I remember it to this day, written in ink, with teardrops, you can see all over it. Basically saying that they lost everything they had and they were being expelled from the country. So they said, please stay where you are, where you're entitled to a free education, because I was born in the British colony, and we'll be in touch with you when we get to Sept. As fate would have it, I wrote to the president of my school in Athens and said, I can't come back, I can't afford to, I'm staying here. While my letter was going to him, a letter from him was coming to me, saying a prep school in the United States has offered a position for one of the boys. How would you like to take it? We've recommended you. Serendipity.
Serendipity.
So here I was, I found myself at prep school in the northwest corner of Connecticut. Basically what I'm saying to you is, I literally was drowning. And this country tossed me a life vest to save me. It opened doors of opportunity for me. It allowed me to pursue my dreams, travel the world, provide for my family, and educate my children. It gave me a wonderful life with the freedom to say and do what I want, but always being aware that my rights stop where yours began.
All right.
So I needed to give something back. And my purpose then became, that's why I said it not only created my purpose, my immigration not only created but defined my purpose. My purpose became being of service to others. Now, if you look at my biography, I wasn't a public servant, but I made a point of everywhere I went to make sure that I left it a better place than what I found. And that's something that I gave to my children as well, I hope.
You did. I can attest to that.
The idea being that I I wanted to contribute to community. I wanted to give back the way this country gave to me. Contribute to my friends, to my neighbors, to my community, to the people around. So from day one, when I stepped foot in this country, until about 7 years ago, I can't remember a day passing by without my saying, God bless America.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, Pastor Deb, you mentioned that you were called into God's service at the age of 15, yet you did not answer the call until you were 33. I'm curious, what delayed you from accepting the call?
To this bedroom voice.
I'm going home now.
The delay, Missy, was my misunderstanding of what my purpose was all about. You see, we as human beings, we tend to think that what God is thinking is what we're thinking. Okay? And we have to realize that His ways are not our ways, neither our thoughts His thoughts. So, as I say, I thought I was doing something because, going through the family, my mother and my grandmother, I'd be a nurse. And so I went and enrolled in UTRIC out in Stone Ridge. I was 33 years old, but I was cute and short. So nobody looked at me and said, why are you so big? Classroom. And we began to be know-it-alls. And when you begin to think you know it all, thank you very much, we get ourselves into trouble. So, the Lord was watching, and He said, okay, I'm just going to let Deborah keep on going, keep on. She wants to be a nurse. That's wonderful. But that's not what I have for her. And so nearing the end of the first semester, an accident occurred which landed me in the hospital where I was paralyzed on one side from the waist down on my right side. And it was Benedictine, you know what it is today. And I had a bed near the window. And what they had done earlier in the day was to inject dye into my back to see why or what was causing this paralysis. I was allergic to the dye, and I thought I was going to die. That night, I looked up at the stars, and I'm going to swear to it that the stars took the shape of an angel. And because I thought, this is it, I watched that figure until the dawn. Now I told my doctor, Dr. Delane, I told him that I was going to die and I did not sleep that night. And he laughed. And I said, I'm not playing with you. I thought I was going to die. I got where they took me home, And the ladies of the church came to the house, and the pastor's wife said to me, Sister Deborah, why don't you just say yes? And I looked at these ladies around my bed, and I finally looked to the heavens, and I said, yes. And before I knew it, I was down on my knees by the side of my bed in prayer. It is one reason why I, as a pastor, help my parishioners who all come to me to get a sense of spiritual healing.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you. Totally, I wanted to ask, with the various roles and responsibilities that you had throughout the course of your life and career, did you ever consider the work that you were doing to be your purpose?
Let's see if I can go through this without crying, okay? Yes, absolutely. All part of what I talked about earlier. The fact that I wanted to contribute, I wanted to make a difference. And by setting my Northern Star, this guide about leave this place better than what you found, I found myself helping people in ways that I wouldn't have in any other way. It really didn't matter what I did. I was always involved with people. So my intention was to help them improve their lives, knowing that by doing so it would improve mine. Because that really became my default position. To this day, when I'm feeling down, when I'm having a pity party, we've all been there, right? I cure it immediately by thinking, who can I go help? You know, whose sidewalk can I go, take the snow away? Whose yard can I go mow? And that immediately gets me out of my pity party. So, especially now that we get older and we have all the time in the world, that's a good thing to do. So, yeah, that's basically what I accomplished.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So the final question that I have for my panel today, and this question is for the both of you. Pastor Deb, if you'd like to go first, you can answer. What advice would you give to someone who may be listening today who is searching for purpose at this time in their lives?
First of all, Missy, I do not recognize myself as a senior citizen. Okay. I regard myself as a teenager. For those of you who are here today, Missy said it best when she talked about not retiring, but rewiring. So no matter what age you are, it is not up to you really to say, I'm finished, I'm done. You have a lot more in each and every one of you. God is not finished with you yet. If you have things that you're passionate about and you've been procrastinating, oh, I'll get to it. Today, just do it and be happy.
Totally the same question to you. What advice would you give to someone listening today about their purpose?
Some time ago, somebody said to me, don't waste your breath giving advice because fools don't believe it and wise people don't need it. But Being the fool that I am, though, I'll ignore that advice. Since I'm asked to give advice. I would basically repeat what the pastor said. What we need to do is, we need to find our passion and pursue it. You know, you can look at the world retired in either one of two ways. It could be retired, that means tired again. Or it can be retired, I'm putting new tires on. So, I'm not a teenager, but I'm 76 years young. So there, I can tell you what I did in order to fulfill my life in these later years. That doesn't mean you have to do that, but you have to find your passion and do it. Maybe you can connect to the comments that I made earlier about immigration. Maybe you can make it a point of talking to other people and correcting, eliminating the static and the noise. Certainly go vote, because this is a very critical year. There is a lot at stake, not just immigration and immigrants. I mean, it's easy to do. I mean, we got to remind people, during COVID, when we were isolated in the comfort of our homes, the immigrants and the migrants, yes, the undocumented workers were working the slaughterhouses and picking up the crops to feed us. Okay? If we get rid of them now, the economies of California, third largest economy in the world, would collapse. The economy of Iowa, Kansas, North Dakota would collapse. We wouldn't have produce on the stores. So, you know, if that rings a chord for you, go out and get involved. Do something. Let's turn the page.
Yes,
Okay?
I agree.
What I personally did when I retired and came back to Northwest Connecticut, because I always thought of that as home, but it helped that my youngest daughter was living there as well. I wanted to embed myself in the community right away, and I volunteered for 2 organizations, again, giving service. One was Habitat for Humanity, and the other one was an outfit called Shore Service, which provides services to elderly and disabled so they can remain at home rather than being institutionalized. Within a month of that, I met 2 couples with Habitat for Humanity, but to this day, 11 years later, are my best friends. Okay, we socialize a lot, we go out a lot, we have a lot of fun, we eat together, so on. The church service thing, I became the go-to driver. You know, when people needed driving services to go to a doctor's appointment or a hair appointment or whatever, I would drive. But then the insurance company of the outfit said, no, you can't do that anymore. But then people started coming to me independently. Okay, and then that grew into taking people to airports and taking people to New York City for medical appointments. And I have a lucrative little business that keeps me going right now, gets me out of bed every morning. You know, and allows them to lead much more comfortable lifestyle.
And perhaps later on during our question and answer, we'll have you talk a little bit more about that, okay? But I'm going to stop us for now because we have 2 other panel discussions that need to take place. And I'd like to take this time to thank Pastor Deb and Toli very much for being on the panel today. I so appreciate all of your words of wisdom. And it is my deepest hope that someone listening today was helped as they consider their own purpose. And I'm going to leave you all today with this quote from Bishop T.D. Jakes. And he says, if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion. For your passion will lead you right into your purpose. Thank you, and here's to brighter days.
So our next moderator probably has taught half the people in this room. It's Don Avalon. Woohoo!
Well, that applause indicates that I've probably given X number of you bathroom passes at one time. Or you've come up to me and said, can I go to the bathroom? Our portion of this panel discussion is connections. And I'd like to start with a quote from the poet Khalil Gibran, who said that your friend is your needs answered. And if you stop to think about that, it leads to a lot of other things. And I'd like to talk a little bit about my journey to this connection idea, or my connection to connections. And then I'll turn it over to my panel mates who will tell their particular stories about connecting to community. I wouldn't be here today if my friend Martha hadn't asked me to be here. And I think that's important for all of you. You've made the effort to be here. You've made the connection. You're already motivated, but there may be a friend of yours that's at home that all they need is for you to ask them to join you in attending whatever it is. And that's a very, very important step. When I think about my own life, I think sort of like dropping a pebble in a puddle, and you get all these concentric circles. And each one of these rings of this circle represent a different group of friends that I have. Probably the only time they'll all be in the same place, well, I don't want to talk about that, but sometimes you can look at all of your friends and go, these people have nothing in common but me. So if I go through my own life and sort of think about it, I was a school teacher for 38 years. So I probably still have a kick me sign on my back. But if I think about that, and I think of 125 students a year for 38 years in this community, I have connections that I don't even really know that I have. And that's also true of all of you. That there are connections with people that you hadn't really even talked about, but you have something in common. Now, I add a little footnote to that. Given the current political climate, there are some things I don't talk about with certain people because I don't have the energy or the bail money to continue the conversation. But through my students, I have lots of connections in this community. And if it's nothing more than meeting someone in the vegetable aisle at Hannaford's, it's a connection. And then that leads to other connections. There was recently the class of 1974 held their 50th high school graduation, and they invited me. I didn't go. And the reason I didn't go is that my relationship with them, even though they're now 60 years old, I would still be their teacher. And there were some things that they needed to talk about among themselves that I didn't really need to know. So I avoided that. But as a result of that reunion, I now am connected with a lot more people than I was before. Also teaching, I taught at Ulster County Community College a couple of night courses, and through that, Ulster used to have a program where they would offer associate's degrees to inmates at state prisons. And Ulster County has as a good employment opportunity 3 state prisons that are located in Ulster County. One is down in Walkill, and that at the time was an aging population of people who had 30 years to life sentences, and they were in their late 50s and they were finishing up. Next to that was the maximum security prison called Shondom, which has inmates that are either they need more protection from the general prison population, or they were bad guys in whatever prisons they were at, and they needed a little bit more supervision. So I made connections there as well. Not a tight connection, but I really feel I probably could get somebody killed. Because I had a number of repeat inmates who got to know me fairly well. One little point, my first week after teaching there for a week, the weekend came along. I taught the whole semester, and then at the end of it, when I was saying goodbye to everyone, they said to me, "Do you know what you said to us after the first Friday that we left?" I said, "No, you said to us, have a good weekend." So I'm not connected with them, but that, again, education brought me in line with that. Because I was a government teacher, I volunteered, both when I lived in the town of Saugerties and now in the town of Resurface, to be on the zoning board of appeals. And I want to suggest to you that in your own town or city governments, there's ample opportunities to volunteer and to make a real contribution to the well-being of your community. I might add, to be honest, that my term was up this last January, and I elected not to serve again because I really felt, in the ZBA at any rate, that the people who would live the longest with decisions made by that board should make them. So I was pre-Joe Biden before Joe Biden. So I would suggest to you that there are things for you to volunteer for, but also make way for younger people, because there are certain things that they need to do. And I think about Brexit. The people who were affected by it the longest didn't get to win the day. And so while you can volunteer for certain things and offer your wisdom, I think there is also a self-check that maybe somebody else should do this. Not that you couldn't do a good job, but that someone else could do that. So those volunteer opportunities exist. Also through Martha and other people, I got to work with the Mental Health Association. When it was suggested to me that I join the board, my first question was, do you know something I don't know? Are you telling me? No, but there again, there are many, many organizations that you can step up and join. You all are going to do that. But if you do it, bring a friend. Make the call. A lot of people also may feel, it's not that they don't want to volunteer, but it's difficult. I know for me, it's very difficult for me, always has been, to ask anybody to do anything for me. If I needed $1, I would have a real tough time asking someone for $1. If they asked me for $1, no problem. But if you ask me to sell candy for the class, I'm going to buy the candy. I'm not going to go around asking people to do it. If I see you on Facebook and you say, for my birthday this year, I'd like to... I would never ask anybody that, and so therefore I'm not going to do that. So again, people need to be asked. And if you're asked, you're going to do it. You're going to be there, you're going to reach it and do it. I think in terms of my own journey and the connections I've made, there are, right now in my life, Martha and I graduated from college together. We have 5 other class of 1963 SUNY Newports, and we get together once or twice a year. We're scattered around the country. Those connections are solid. We're always going to be there. So don't be afraid to reach back and make those connections with people. I have a group of faculty member friends that I see every 2 weeks, and we do trivia. More with that's the excuse for us to get together and just chat. So that's a circle that you should also expand on. You're all work life. What about those people? And how do they make those connections? Connections is an action word. You can't passively make a connection. You have to make the effort to do that. And then that will lead to other things. I know people our age, probably the first 10 minutes you're with somebody, it's what we like to call an organ recital, where you, how's this? If this doesn't work anymore, what are you doing? And this morning, my biggest dilemma was, what should I wear? Is it sweater weather? Am I going to be cold? Are they going to have the air conditioning on? Should I bring a sweater? Is my cell phone on mute? And what does mute mean? So we are the planets of our age. Now I want to turn it over to my accomplices here and ask them to relate in their own way, in their own connection stories. And I don't know who would like to go first. Does it matter?
I'm older, I'll go first.
Oh. Betty Ann Moskowitz.
Can you hear me? I want to make connections with everybody here. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yep. No. I want to make connections with everybody here. Everybody's so interesting. My thought, sorry, Reverend Deb, I come from a place of no. And it's okay. What I was saying is I come from a place of no. I'm very oppositional. And I have found that as I've aged, this has helped me hold on. And I think as we get older, particularly because we live in an ageist society, it's important to hold on. As Don said, everything is going. And sometimes you think to yourself, I'm on my way there too. But I'm asked to talk about not the isolation part of it, but the connecting part of it. So I will say that I think the first thing to do, I will say my story is that after a good marriage of 58 years, my husband died 3 weeks before the lockdown. So I was really, in a way, I was very isolated, alone in the house. Remember spraying the bags before they came into the house from ShopRite who delivered them, and wiping that down, and then wiping down the Fantastic, and then using the Fantastic to dry. I think we're still going through it, and I think we still don't know what the fallout will be. But it also, in a sense, protected me because everybody was in the same boat. And it gave me a grace period to figure out how I was going to possibly live without my husband. I will say that reflecting on the fact that a good long marriage means that in some sense you and your husband and your kids at some point are your own community. And when that community is gone, when he's gone, you have to really do diligent work to find communities out there and to make connections, because you never had to before. Why bother? Place of no. So for me, it was not only making a connection out there, it was, I more and more realized, reconnecting with myself. I can't be a widow all my life. I have to be Betty Ann sometime.
And having lived, and I come from the generation where you left your parents' house and you went right into your house of your marriage. Never lived alone, never made decisions that didn't have some connection to someone else. So it was a real connecting with all the things that I used to want, or I thought I want, or had a passion for. And it included, I jotted some things down. What it included is, it included cooking and meditation. I don't meditate. I mean, that sounds very highfalutin. I think things over. I sit quietly and think things over. That's meditating. Falling asleep a little bit. That's meditating. So I think part of it is doing that, and the lucky part of it for me is that I was born writing, and I kept on writing, and I'm still writing, and writing is my way to do it all, is to connect with myself, and also to connect, to partner with readers. And that's what I've come to know as my passion and my purpose. And I'm making connections between everybody's speeches too. So, but the big story, and I think the reason I was invited today, was the connection that I've finally made that's really, I think, beginning to change my life. About a year ago, I live in Woodstock. I live alone in a house that's big enough for my kids to begin to say to me, you know, don't you think it's time? And what do you need with all the rooms? And if you come closer to us, we'll have dinner every Sunday. And I started to think, well, now that I still have the vigor to do it, maybe I should start thinking about it. And then they began to send me pictures of little rooms and little communities where they live, and I'm thinking, no, not for me. But, and it's a lovely illusion, but what are you going to do the rest of the 6 days while you kids go back to work? And we had our dinner on Sunday, and whoopty. But I did realize that I was lonely where I was. And if my kids are not my friends, then I better find some friends. And I said to a local artist, Shelley Carriott, who also lives in Woodstock and was also widowed when I was, I'm lonely. And she said, I'm lonely. And I said, why don't we start a group? And that's what we did. There's a group called the Settled and Staying in Place that was started by a group in Kingston and one on the 209 corridor. And I called Vivi Lofson, some of you may know, and I said, how do I start this? And she said, it's very simple. So I called the local library, and they said, you can absolutely put a notice in our bulletin, and I did put a notice. All I said was, we're a group of alone Woodstockers who want to stay in our own homes and need some support. If you'd like to join us, and I gave my email. We got 10 takers the first week. This was last June. We've got about 30 or 40 people who, I would say 20 of whom come at every meeting. We meet once a week for 2 hours. We meet on Mondays. And it's become a group of friends, a group of supporters. We've built a database that helps us find people, practical people to help us, like roofers and doctors or dentists, if you can find one. We're building the database as we go along. And we help each other as we can. We give people rides when we can. We pick up groceries if we need to. We pick up members who are not driving, maybe for the moment or forever. We have a member who came to Woodstock. She had had a stroke. She was recovering. She came for a while, and then she was beginning to fail. And so members of the group kind of dropped by and kept in touch with her. Well, she came back. And I was thinking of what you were saying, Don, but she came back this last week because someone picked her up, and she said, I don't like to ask for help, and that's our generation. I don't like to ask for help, but if anybody wouldn't mind picking me up, I'd love to come. And everybody, I'm picking her up in a couple of weeks, someone else is picking her up next week, and she's going to be able to keep coming. This is a life-saving thing for all of us. I'm 84. I would say the bulk of us are between, there are a couple of young people in the group in their 60s, but most of us are in our mid-70s to mid-80s. And counting. So.
Claire O'Brien.
I was going to say that. Claire O'Brien. Mine sounds so self-centered, what I'm saying to you. Sounds so self-centered. But it is. It's all about me in my life trying to make connections. Okay? It's really different than these two spoke and I thought, what am I going to say? I have these little notes. Anyway, so I'm starting from the beginning. I grew up in Queens, Jackson Heights. Loved it. It was a great upbringing. Went to Catholic school, went to Catholic girls' high school, met my husband when I was 13. Do you believe? We're still together. So we've been together like 65 years. Anyway, but we both grew up in Queens, and we had our friends. We hung out at Bill's, and those were my buddies there. Some of them were a little rough. But in general, they were the friends. And the girls my friends were from school, the high school, and so those are my connections. And I'm still in touch with several of them. A lot of them have passed, which is very sad. That's another sad part of our life. But anyway, so we moved from Jackson Heights. Do you believe that I'm talking like this? This genius is over here, and this wonderful. And anyway, so we moved and we bought our first house in New Jersey because friends of ours lived there. So that I didn't have to really build connections. I had a beginning. So I joined the Junior Women's Club. That's not the Junior League. That was a little too uppity for us. Junior Women's Club. I met so many gals there. And, oh God. Anyway, I'm talking about gals here. I'm talking about the fact that I need my girlfriends. It's not anything about purpose, or it's I need my girlfriends, and I often think about how everybody's leaving. No, I'm kidding. Oh God. So anyway, so we that's what I wanted to make my girlfriends. So we built a group of girlfriends, and we had a couple friends too, but the girlfriends were very important. You have your kids, you raise your kids together, it's the whole thing. And then I went back to school in my 30s and became a social worker and worked at our local visiting nurse and had a wonderful community there. Wonderful, wonderful community. And I loved working at the VNA. It was great. And Governor Hochul better not outsource home care, okay? Right away goes. Okay, so then I retired when I was, it was in 2015, I guess I was 75, I'm going to be 80 in April. And we had to move here because we had a family member who was having some struggles, and we thought we really should be here. But I left the community that I had built up over 40 years, my work life, my social life, my church life, my every life. So all my connections were gone, except for my daughter, actually. So a friend of mine from grammar school, who lives in Ridge, what's the Ridge thing? Stone Ridge. She lives in Stone Ridge. We had lunch together, and he told me to go talk to Kelly McMullen. Because I was thinking, how do I get started around here? And I knew about the Office on Aging from my work at home. I knew how these agencies operated. So my gift was being able to be connected back into that work life as a volunteer. And I made connections. And Helen is a connection. I'm part of StateWide because of the beginning with Kelly, because the Office on Aging introduced us to StateWide. And now I have a great bunch of connections here. Now, my purpose in being with my girlfriends is definitely to help other people too. I mean, why would we be in StateWide if we weren't interested in helping people understand what's going on out there to help seniors or not help seniors? So I feel very blessed that I have the guts to make connections, because I think for some it's very difficult, and I think we need to be kind to ourselves and not worry about it so much. Everybody has some little thing in common that is going to bring them together and comfortably. And you can see somebody for months in a place and not really get to know them until later on, and then wow, there's a connection. I didn't go around in my life saying, oh, a connection, check it out. But when I was thinking about this presentation, that's where I focused, because it was so important to me to have outside. My husband is he's perfect for me. Perfect. He loves to do his own thing. He invents toys all the time. You should see my dining room, it's frightening. But because I'm so into the connections with my girlfriends, and he's so driven by his insanity. No, it's not insanity. No, he just flourishes on his own. It's the perfect marriage, because I can go when I want to go. It's not like there's a big fight. Well, we were going to eat together tonight. It's always been great. So I'm going on too long. I have one group that I have to tell you about that's back in Bernardsville. We are called the Vintage Swine. Okay? What do you think we're called that for? Well, we used to play bridge and drink wine and do swinish things. So we have never lost our name. We're still the Vintage Swine. We used to throw bridal showers for our daughters, and we had an apron made with pigs playing bridge. It's a very special group. My grandkids give me all kinds of pigs. They know I love pigs, but it's getting too much. Anyway, that's enough. I think you get it. I know. The first time I realized I belonged here was when I met someone I knew in Kingston at the ShopRite. That made me know I was here. I met somebody I knew in ShopRite. No.
I remember that I knew that we were going to be sisters.
Oh, perfect.
When we both agreed on our politics.
Yep.
And we cursed at each other.
We loose mouths, right. There's a lot of them around here. Anyway, so my story is a little lighter, but it's meaningful, and I hope you gain something from it. And don't be afraid to speak up.
One thing, if people are at a juncture where they're needing to find connections, one of the things that I notice is that going back and reconnecting, because in the middle of your life, when you're busy doing things, you don't have room, I think, to take a breath and say, God, I wonder what happened to so-and-so, and I wonder what happened. And then your friends start dying, and there's room. So I have a very thriving, I went to Music and Art High School in the city, and I have a very thriving class of 56 group of people, and we've drawn closer in later years, catching up and keeping up. And also college, I went to Hunter College, and the same thing. When there's room, look for somebody who you may need and may need you.
Dave, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but you prompted this discussion, in that through grief, we make connections, and it's a fact of all of our lives at this age that we confront grief in a lot of ways, whether it be a parent or a spouse or a child. And even if you meet up with someone and you sit quietly for an hour, connection doesn't always mean having a non-stop conversation. It just means being there for someone.
Absolutely.
And I think that's not something, it may sound morbid, but it's not. It's very positive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, I think, well, I'll tell you this funny thing, because you're talking about your husband. I've been able to concentrate on my own work 15 times more than I did when I was filled with a family life. And I often say that the price that I pay for loneliness is peace and time to work. And I was thinking about that, and I was producing a lot of work. And people kept saying to me, he's looking over you. He's looking down at you. And I started to get a little ticked off. Because I was doing the work. And see, he's getting the credit. And I thought, you know, what's happening is I'm beginning to reestablish who I am and reconnect with my old self. And that's okay.
My wife and I were married for 49 years, and Mary used to say they were 49 happy years. 2 for her, and 47 for me. That was true.
Very good. So, purpose, connection, and keeping active. And I'd like to have Marcia Seabrook come up here. And as she comes up, we will point from her, because all of the graphics, all of the design, all of the flyers exist because Marcia can do the what? She's a
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm over here now. I'm mixing things up, making sure you all are paying attention. Everyone can hear me in the back? Please stand by.
And I'd like to thank our RD person, Miles Student.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you. I'm holding this microphone, and all I can think about is karaoke, but that'll be later. Let's get to it. So my name is Marcia Sebro, and I will be the moderator for the activity panel. I am a new member of the Ulster County chapter for New York Statewide Action Council, which is very cool. Like, I think these ladies, we should get like leather jackets or something, ties. Okay, so so we know that being physically active is beneficial at every stage of our lives. In fact, something as simple as walking for exercise 15 minutes a day can help you to improve your overall health. But did you know that walking with a companion increases health benefits for you? So, companionship is good for your health. So I'm going to be introducing two women in our activity panel today who are going to share their stories on staying active. They are Dr. Shelley Fraden and Ivy Cadams. And I'm going to start with Ivy. Thank you both for being here. So Ivy was a nursing educator for many years. After retirement, she was confronted with too much leisure time and in need of finding something meaningful. So she ended up with a wonderful accidental second career, as she called it. Ivy is currently she currently has a mediation practice. And she's a professional neutral. She works with families in conflict and in transition to help them find ways to resolve their differences and move forward. So you may want to ask her about that later if you're having a conflict with someone in the room. Ivy, thanks for being here. Since the planning of this forum, I've gotten to know you. It's been a pleasure. Ivy, you described yourself to me, and I quote, "I'm not a joiner, I hate groups." But yet, here you are on the activity panel after we're talking about purpose and connection. So I understand that you have joined a program at the YMCA in Kingston. How does someone who is not comfortable joining a group end up doing that? Tell us about it.
Thank you, Marsha, for the introduction. So why don't I tell you a little bit about myself? Not long, just a little bit. Like Marcus, I'm an immigrant. I came to this country when I was 26 years old as an adult. Thank you, Miles. The echo was there. Okay, is it okay, the mic, right? Yeah. So I came here when I was an adult. I was 26 years old, and I have been in Ulster County for 50 years. So I spent 2/3 of my life in this country. So when I first got here, a brand new culture, brand new language in everyday communication, I better find myself a purpose because I have no idea what I was doing, where I was going. I remember things are just so unfamiliar. I got off the plane at JFK, and the only person I knew was a professor at SUNY New Paltz, and I was going to stay with her brother, whom I was engaged to be married, and he was in East Orange, Newark, or somewhere like that. New Jersey, right? I remember getting off the plane, getting into his car, leaving JFK, driving towards where he was staying, and I said, "This is America?" The landscape was totally different from what I expected because it wasn't pretty. It was nothing like the American movies that I watched when I was at home, which was beautiful. And I remember somebody said something about that people thought that America was like a place that would gold in the streets and the mountains. And here I was going towards New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. So I knew that I really needed to figure out what direction I was going. So talking about purpose. being dumped in a brand new country, I really needed to figure out what I was doing here. I didn't quite know what I was doing here, especially after my fiance and I decided that we were not going to get married. So I came to Ulster County and stayed with his sister, who was married to the professor at SUNY New Paltz. That was the only person I knew in this country other than the guy that I just broke up with. And along the way, I met so many people talking about connections that since being a Buddhist, I felt that they were Buddhas in my life who actually helped me find my direction, get me into places that I actually have human interactions. So I got myself educated, got my degrees, get jobs, and so on. And I think most people in this room would relate to this. So you work your entire life. Activities is no problem. You know that 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever time that you have to go to work, you just show up. And there are activities waiting to be conducted, and you better do it, or else you won't get your paycheck. So that was very easy because I knew what I had to do. So as almost all of you here would, time goes on, you find yourself in retirement. So I retired, and at that time, I became a widow. My son was grown, and he left the house, and I thought it was great. Nothing to do, I can get up in the morning, sleep late, and so on and so forth. Well, that lasted for 3 months, and I found myself so bored, and I didn't know what to do with myself, literally casting around, trying to find something meaningful to do. Now, as Martha said, I'm not a joiner. I hate joining groups. I'm a very self-contained person. I like to spend time by myself. I like to read. I like to walk and by myself. And my husband passed away, and my son is not there. And I have a few good friends. But since I'm not a joiner and a social butterfly, I don't have a huge network of friends. So what to do? What to do? That became a driving dilemma. I didn't know what to do with myself. But I know what I could do well. I can work with individuals. I am very good at listening to between lines, what people say, what is underneath, and I'm very good at problem solving. And I'm hardworking. So I decided that I could find some meaningful work working with individuals and not really go and find another job and work with groups and so on and so forth. And one thing leads to another. It became a thriving second career without me intending it to be working with families that deals with major conflicts in their lives that I had to help them kind of sort out how to deal with their own problems and so on. And then last year in July, an unexpected bad thing happened. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. People get cancer. I got 3 all at once. And it was a devastating time because the treatment was very difficult, very intense. It went on intensely for about 6 or 7 months. And then it becomes less intense, but a lot of medication and so on. So today I'm still taking medication and I'm fine. I feel great. However, because you're taking medication, and I'm sure a lot of you kind of have similar experiences, the side effects are there, and you want the good part to help you take care of your health problems, so you got to deal with the bad part that is give you side effects. And my side effects primarily is I'm losing part of balance is an issue. And I find myself very, very stiff, both muscles and joints. And if I sit there like today, right, I've been sitting here for like a little bit. And if I get up, I can't walk right away. I need to sort of like get myself moving. And it was very disconcerting. I'm 77 years old. And I said to myself, if this is like, if I'm 77 and I find myself not able to move around easily, I intend to live another 15, 20 years. So what's going to happen, So I said to myself, I gotta go and do something about this. And first of all, I have never really joined any kind of classes and programs or anything like this. I'm scared to death of water. I don't know how to swim. But I read an article about water exercise, aqua aerobics or water aerobics or whatever you will call it. And it talks about, it's a really good way of doing exercise. And I said, can I do that? But anyway, I got some encouragement for a couple of good friends of mine, get some inspiration from Martha, really. She was talking about swimming and so on. So I called up the Y and I said, I don't know how to swim. Would I drown doing this? They said, no, I'll stay in the shallow end of the pool, will be fine. So I still didn't quite believe her. So I went to the Y and looked through the glass at the pool when people are doing the thing. And I discovered that people of all shapes and sizes were there. It was incredible. I thought that you have to be like, gorgeous and wear a nice bathing suit. But it wasn't like that at all. And there were music, and I liked the old rock and roll music. So I thought, I'll give it a try. So I had to order a bathing suit, either delay the enrollment, participate in the class for like a little bit, wait for the bathing suit to come. And I anchored myself at the pool. Luckily, they had a wall. They tell you how deep the water is. I anchor myself in a sign that says 3 feet 4 inches of water, and I stayed there. And the most amazing thing, not being a joiner and hate being in a group, I discovered that it is absolutely wonderful to be there. The people are really friendly and really nice, and the best part is that all of my conception about exposing myself to a group of individuals are all misplaced, because everybody are there that are really different. They're all different sizes, different abilities. Some people come with walkers, some people are in their 80s, some people are younger, some people look gorgeous in the bathing suit, others did not look so good, but nobody cared. And the instructor are very funny. They would tell us what to do with our abdominal muscles and our butt, and we would do twists and rock and roll dance and do jumping jacks and stuff in the water. And she would say, don't worry about it, just do your twists and jump around. Because you're underwater, nobody can see what you're doing down there. So what you see, everybody is only from the sort of mid-chest up. So underneath, whatever you do, no matter what you look like wearing a bathing suit, nobody can see you, and nobody cares. And we had so much fun. And the group were really nice to everybody. There was a lady who just got her citizenship. Everybody was happy for her. We applauded. There were 2 ladies who were in their 80s and had just hit their 84th birthday or something like that. Everybody sang happy birthday to her. And I felt really comfortable being there. It's totally unexpected, not being a joiner, and it's just wonderful. And I find myself, after I came out of the pool, I feel good. My body feels good. I find myself smiling. In the locker room, people share like stories about their children, and they exchange tomatoes and cucumbers during the season. It's just wonderful. And it's something that is so unexpected to me, that it's sort of like you didn't look for it, but you found it. So it's both staying healthy, staying active, taking care of my health issue, having the connections. Even though I'm still not a social butterfly, I won't go out and have lunch with these people, but I love being there 3 times a week, and I can't wait to go. Marsha, that's my story.
Thank you so much, Heidi. For the sake of time, I'm going to go to our final panelist. So Shelley Fraden, who, those of you who know her, we affectionately call her Dr. Shelley. She has a PhD in natural health sciences and holistic health. She's been in the wellness field as a health and longevity coach and lecturer for more than 60 years. Wow. For the past 18 years, she's worked as a licensed Zumba fitness instructor, teaching older adults. Most recently, here in Ulster County. Actually, she teaches Zumba right here at the Rosendale Rec Center. And in Ellenville, where she taught a class this morning, which is why she came in a little late. And she has a class this afternoon at the Ulster County Office for the Aging Hub at 2 o'clock. I had the exceptional joy of spending her 85th birthday, celebrating her birthday on June 14th of this year. We celebrated Dr. Shelley's birthday at the end of her Zumba class, where she was doing a 12-week series for the city of Kingston over at their Midtown Gymnasium. So, Dr. Shelley, thank you for being here. My question for you, Shelley, is as an 85-year-old woman living alone, what do you do to stay connected and deal with isolation and loneliness?
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. It's hard to believe that I'm 85. I have to check my driver's license every now and then because I feel like I'm 25. So I have a story similar to other people here, is that I lived at home most of my life, and then I got married, went from a parents' house to my husband and I lived together. I never lived on my own. And then I got divorced about 20 years later, and my husband was my dance partner. I've been a dancer all my life, and my husband was my dance partner. We would compete in competitions, and we spent a lot of our time dancing in the Catskill hotels. Anybody remember that? Anybody danced there? Yeah, so we had some incredible memories, and then all of a sudden, abruptly, it was over. And I didn't even know how to take care of myself. I never went to a restaurant by myself. Forget about traveling by myself. I never went to a movie by myself. I had to actually recreate who I was. I didn't even know who I was. And that's what I really wanted to share with all of you, is that we go through decades, we go through different periods in our lives where things keep changing. We have to keep changing as things change. If we don't change our thinking, then we get stuck in the past and we don't move forward. So that's where I was. Like, I didn't even know where to go forward. So I started doing things on my own for myself. And I want to emphasize that becoming your own best friend is probably the best thing that I did for myself, and the thing that I would recommend to all of you. You can't be a friend for someone else until you become your own best friend and you're good to yourself. I never wanted to become dependent on other people, and I see that happening a lot around me, where people don't do anything if their friends don't do it. They don't do anything on their own. So it's very important to step out of the comfort zone and do things that scare you. And I remember when I was probably 5 years after my divorce, I'd never even taken a trip by myself. I never did road trips. I decided to do a big one and drive cross country by myself. I was terrified, but it was the best thing I could have ever done for myself. I planned the trip ahead. I knew where I was going to stop. I knew what state I was going to be in. I knew, not to say that even though I had these plans that I wasn't terrified. I was terrified. I'd never been in my car by myself for such a long period of time, and I did it. I had a flat tire on the way, and I knew how to handle the flat tire. I would just call. First, I cried every time. Every time I had a new experience, I cried, and I said, "Okay, now that you cried, what are you going to do about it?" So at that time, we didn't even have cell phones when I did that. I had a CB radio, so I would call the truckers and I'd say, "Hey, I have a flat tire. I'm on this road and that road. Can you help me?" And it was incredible. I had so much support and so much love. And I think that when you do things on your own, because you are becoming your own best friend, you learn to rely on yourself, you learn to trust yourself, you learn to make decisions for yourself, and you don't, quote, need other people to survive. Yes, it's wonderful to have your network, and it's wonderful to have your groups, but if you can't do it on your own, then you're going to be very unhappy. And I was very lonely, I was very depressed. I would say, you know, when the divorce happened, I didn't even know what direction to go in. The cross-country trip was very successful. I wrote a book about it, and you can get it on Amazon. Actually, it's called The Goddess Road Trip Manual. And I include in that book all the mistakes I made along the way, so that whoever's reading it can learn from my mistakes. And the biggest benefit that I achieved from that is that I could do it. The feeling of knowing that I could do it, that you could do it, I think is worth, it's like beyond $1 million, millions and millions of dollars. And then I continued doing things similar on different scales. And I would love to, I try something new all the time. My hair is different, my color, my hair is different every couple of months. I make it lighter, I make it blue, I make it purple. And you know, I've never done anything like that in my life. And what the heck, we need to do something different. I zipped off my hair one day, I just was in the bathroom and kind of didn't like the way it looked, and I just buzzed it off. And so that's my first recommendation, is that you need to play in life. Find your passion, like other people have said here today. Do things that scare you. Of course, making sure you're safe in that process. But that's how you learn to be on your own and become someone else's best friend. You can't be someone that's part of a group and be able to contribute to those people unless you're taking care of yourself first. So that's my recommendation. So what I did after my divorce, I needed to find another way to dance because that was one of my passions. And so I started taking Zumba classes. And I was living at that time, I think I was living in New York. But then I moved to Florida and learned that there was a man who brought Zumba to United States from Colombia, and he was offering licensing. And I said, you know, that would be awesome. I don't need a partner. I don't have to feel like I'm not dancing, which is the love of my life. And I became licensed and certified in 2006. And I've been dancing ever since. And the beauty of dancing is that as I aged, my followers were aging. Wherever I lived, whatever state I lived in, I'd always find people that were my age. And so I became an expert in teaching older people. I teach a chair class. We dance in a chair, sitting down, if you can't stand for the whole class. And every class I teach, even though it's a standing class, you could always sit. So it's doing more than one thing. It's giving me the joy of the music, the joy of dancing, the joy of moving my body, the joy of staying youthful and fit at 85. I'll be 86 in June. I have no aches and pains, which is a miracle. And I believe it's dancing that has done that for me and other people. And I'm also building a network. It's a family. We are a Zumba family. So the classes I teach here on Thursday afternoons at 1. I also teach Ellenville at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. And in the afternoon, I teach at the Ulster County Office for the Aging Hub. And that's a chair class. That's strictly chair. So anybody can do it. That's an important connection. Find out what your passion is and do it. And that's how you build confidence for yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Shelley. Before I wrap up the activity panel, I also just want to share some quick tips. I know that we're all looking forward to a delicious lunch. There's a theme that I've been hearing about trying new things and going out of your comfort zone. But we also know seniors, like teenagers, will do things with their friends, right? So commitment can be scary. I just want to encourage you all, if you're thinking about trying something new, Shelley teaches classes. Heidi talked about her experience going to the Y. You can audit a class for free. If there's a class that you would like to take, there's so many opportunities in Ulster County. Call the instructor and see if you can sit in and experience the class. This way you get to see who's in it, what's it like, is it going to be okay for me? I will tell you that's what I did when for like 2 months, I was checking out this martial arts class offered at Kingston Athletics. And at the age of 50, I joined martial arts school to learn Jeet Kune Do. And I was terrified that someone was gonna hit me and knock me out. And that's not what happened. And it was really awesome. And I learned a lot of self-defense skills alongside people who were half my age. And they really, we just embraced each other. So I just share that with you to be encouraged that you're never too old to try something new. Dr. Shelley has taught Zumba in nursing homes where all of the participants were in wheelchairs and they tap their feet or they move their head. You can always do something. Be inspired to do something. With the holiday season coming up, when you think about getting someone a traditional gift, consider getting someone an experience instead of buying them something. Get them a certificate to a class or a gift certificate to the movies where it would be enough to take a friend. A couple of months ago, there was a show at the Woodstock Playhouse, and I challenged myself. I bought 2 tickets, but I didn't have anyone in mind, and it forced me to ask people to go on a date with me. I was like, I have 2 tickets to this thing. Do you want to come? So little things like that. If you're feeling, I want to try something new, reach out to your network, try it on your own, and thank you, ladies, for always inspiring me to live my best life, and all of the women who are on the planning committee for this statewide forum are so exceptional and cool. I just look up to all of you, and it's just been great. And I'm going to turn this back over to Martha Studing.
Keeping an eye on the time, we're going to have lunch, and Stephanie, she doesn't know I'm calling her. Stephanie is Stephanie and Heidi actually are the coffee food people. I believe there's a vegan option, there's chicken salad, there's, what else?
We have a bunch of sandwiches. There are traditional subs with ham, beef, or turkey.